Okay, so first is first, Luis. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just drove for 7 hours, so I'm all right.
Okay. Well, before we get into the new album Criminal, I'd like to start somewhere else. Do you have a favorite movie soundtrack?
Yeah, I've got a few for sure. The soundtrack for a horror film from, I believe maybe the 80s. It's called The Entity. But I think probably my favorite would be from a Polish film called Chronopolis from the early 80s by Luke Ferrari.
Okay. So why this one?
It's just weird, you know. It's very unconventional. It's not trying to be cinematic in any way.
Okay.
It's kind of going against what we traditionally view soundtracks as. It's just very strange, very off-putting, very experimental, just out of the box.
Did it affect the way you saw the film?
Yeah, well, I think the film itself changed my point of view on filmmaking. I think once around that time, this was quite a few years back, many years back actually, when I started like watching experimental film and things like that, weird movies from around the world, rare films like Invasion of Thunderbolt Pagoda, films like that, very psychedelic, odd. Once I started getting into that, it definitely changed my point of view on films, and you can see the freedom that there is. You know, 'cause, I mean, I'm from Los Angeles, and there you have Hollywood.
Sure.
So, and Hollywood kind of tends to have a sort of cliche, blockbuster films and things like that, over dramatic things like that. But I like the weird and strange.
Okay. Because I've read somewhere that you started, or maybe you always been, but got interested in maybe doing movie scores or moving in that direction. So, did making music always have that visual character or that atmospheric character for you?
Yeah, for sure. In the beginning, when I first started the Soft Moon, I wasn't even concerned or even thinking about creating music for film, but I started to realize that my music was atmospheric, just naturally. I would create a lot of atmosphere. My music is very cinematic. It's music that you can actually sort of see. And I think over time I started realizing that, and of course people were also mentioning that as well to me. And so that's when I started kind of realizing, wow, you know what, perhaps I would be good at doing film scores. And so that's definitely my next goal for sure.
Because for you now writing music, do you then, for each individual song, have a certain thing in mind? Do you see kind of like a mini movie in front of your eyes, or?
And it's more when I'm creating the music. It's more about just feeling.
Okay.
I feel a lot. It's all about creating a vibe, a mood. But once the song is completed. Then once I listen to the final track, when I'm not sitting down creating the song and being cathartic because of the process, once I'm done with that and I listen to my music, then I can sort of see I can see imagery, I guess.
When you think about, because I assume Criminal has been done for longer than it's been out.
Yeah.
So do you have a certain image that pops up when you think about that album or when you listen to it?
Not quite yet. Because it takes a little bit more time. I also need this whole touring process. Once the tour is done, once we tour Europe, basically once we finish the campaign, the Criminal campaign, I guess you would call it, after the touring and after it's all said and done, then it's like, then I can look back at it and have some sort of perspective and see what it all meant.
Right. So you mentioned mood and then kind of the feeling that initially kind of starts the songwriting off. So what is this dependent on? Is it your own mood? Is it your environment? Because obviously Berlin has...
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty much a journal or an autobiography of my life and my evolution since the first record and until today, you know. So in a way... It's more, maybe if it is a movie, it's a documentary. I would say.
Almost like I don't know if there's a word for it, but autobiography.
Autobiography, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Because we spoke to you with the album Deeper, and I think you kind of mentioned that you felt more confident after making that album. So how has that carried you into kind of what Criminal would be?
I've gained more confidence with Criminal, which is why I think this record is a little bit more pissed off.
Okay.
And now with Deeper, I was revealing more of myself, maybe some guilty pleasures, you know, maybe adding a little bit more pop content in that record, and then with this record, I'm very literal with expressing my feelings. You know, in fact, you know, there's a song called Like a Father, and I'm pointing a finger at, you know, the fact that I didn't have a father when I grew up, and realizing that I may have obtained quite a few problems in my life as a person because of the lack of having a father, and so things like that, pointing the blame and being very literal. Whereas before, I was a lot more, I guess, metaphorical with my expression. It was kind of wasn't really telling the listener exactly what's problematic in my life. So the confidence is more so in Criminal.
Do you know what gave rise to that confidence? Do you know what kind of changed in between?
It's just being able to express myself through music over time, and having a connection with the audience, and now realizing that all these emotions it's fine, you know, and it's okay to talk about how you feel. It took me a long time to realize that, and that confidence is just getting stronger and stronger.
Right, and well, one thing then, because I also read somewhere that you once said that writing an album is almost like torture.
Yeah.
So does it get even worse as you go along?
It's worse. Yeah. In the beginning, I was hoping it would get easier. Starting with the first record, that would be a lot smoother. But it gets worse. It could be also, you know, over time, you know, as you get older, maybe it gets worse for even people who don't have a creative outlet. I'm not sure, but yeah, the more and more I continue this project and this process of discovering who I am, yeah, it gets more fucked up, yeah.
But so this, and like you mentioned, and everybody's kind of saying this about the album, it's a bit angrier, it's a bit more direct. So what is that writing process like? Is it you yourself locking yourself in a room and just torturing yourself in a way?
Pretty much, torturing myself with the music. Yeah, I haven't changed my process since the beginning.
Okay.
I tried, well, just a little bit. I've always written in my home environment. And with Criminal, while living in Berlin, I rented a basement, a place where I could go to, separated from my home life. And I found that after a few months I was struggling. And so I moved all my gear back home, and then I finished the writing process. Yeah, and it's pretty much me. I need to be alone, so I need to be alone in order to completely express myself. So I don't have to feel embarrassed for crying while I'm writing a song or whatever. Yeah.
You mentioned the word catharsis. So once this process has been done, is it then done for you? Is that catharsis, or does it continue into now performing live? And
yeah, it's still continuing. Okay. It's the whole process hasn't been completed yet. But of course, there's a sense of reward when you finish a record that you spend close to a year on. So there's some sort of relief for sure, and it's an emotional journey. Writing the writing process itself is quite emotional. And the live performance is the release of it all. Okay. I get to physically, release any sort of emotions through the songs that I had written. Right. And the songs on the album are contained emotions, and then the live show is the let it all out.